You read, you listen, you jot down beautiful quotes, highlight passages, share excerpts that touch you. But when you lay your head on the pillow, the feeling is the same. Nothing has changed inside. You still feel far from the peace you seek. You still blame yourself for repeating the same patterns. You still carry a weariness of the soul that even the most beautiful reading hasn't been able to heal. There's a silent hunger for transformation. But what many don't realize is that not every reading nourishes. Sometimes it just fills space. The mind is crowded, but the spirit remains thirsty. Dallas Willard once said that spiritual formation is not the accumulation of knowledge, but the embodiment of truth. Because wisdom is not measured by pages read, but by actions born. There's a profound difference between knowing what is right and being transformed by it, between admiring the light and allowing it to reveal what lies in the darkness of your soul. Reading without intention is like eating without chewing. You swallow, but you don't nourish. You feel satisfied for a moment, but remain too weak for the journey. And maybe that's exactly what's been happening to you. An excess of content, but an absence of conversion. But what if you could change that? What if, in just 7 days, you could transform the way you read, and with it, begin a real, deep, quiet, yet lasting change within yourself? In the next few minutes, you won't just learn how to read better. You'll learn how to encounter truth in a way so personal, so direct, so intimate that you won't be able to walk away unchanged. Because when reading stops being routine and becomes an encounter, the heart cannot remain the same.
1. Beware. The addiction to content might be pulling you away from wisdom. You start your day with a motivational video. During your lunch break, you listen to a podcast. Before bed, you read a few more pages of a book on purpose, productivity, or spirituality. Your mind feels too busy to notice loneliness, and yet it still shows up. Because being full of information doesn't always mean you're truly fulfilled. There is a hunger, disguised as curiosity, a restlessness that drives us to consume without pause, as if the next sentence will finally heal us, as if the next chapter will fix what hurts. But this craving for content often turns into mental noise, and where there is too much noise, wisdom falls silent. Neuroscience shows us that when the brain is flooded with simultaneous stimuli, it enters a state of quiet exhaustion. It processes, records, stores, but doesn't absorb deeply. The mind becomes saturated, and the heart indifferent. It's like trying to hear a soft melody in the middle of a storm of sounds. Wisdom, unlike content, doesn't shout, it whispers. It requires space. It blooms in the silence between one thought and the next. That's why Proverbs 4:7 says, "Get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding." The call is not to collect quotes, but to discern truths. It's not about how much you read, but about what remains after the book is closed. The blind chase for information might be pulling you away from the essence, because wisdom is not measured by how many pages you turn, but by how many pages turn you. It's not about how much you know, but about how much you live what you know. And maybe it's time to stop running after more, so you can start walking with less, but with depth.
2. Read less, feel more. What the text confronts you to change. Not every book you finish transforms you. Not every passage you understand pierces you. Some sentences pass like the wind, pleasant, quick, but harmless. And there are those that hurt, that stop you in the middle of the page and ask you a silent question. Will you live this or just admire it? The problem isn't the lack of reading, it's the lack of pause. Because when you read in a hurry, you skip over what matters most. Beautiful sentences can feed the ego, but it's the uncomfortable ones that heal the soul. The kind of reading that changes you isn't the one that confirms what you already think. It's the one that exposes what you've been avoiding. Behavioral psychology shows that our brain responds more strongly to questions than to statements. Because a question pulls us out of our comfort zone. It demands a position, an emotional response. That's why a single sentence can become a mirror, if you have the courage to face the reflection it offers. Instead of underlining only what sounds beautiful, try writing down what unsettles you. Instead of marking a passage that confirms something you already believe, write next to it, what does this confront me to change? Reading with intention is opening the text so that it also reads you. It's allowing the words to reveal you, not just inform you. Because in the end, it's not the book that changes you, it's how you let it in. It's the depth with which you allow it to echo inside you. A single sentence, when absorbed with honesty, can bring more transformation than 10 chapters read with distraction. The question is, what are you truly willing to feel while you read?
3. Turn reading into prayer, the secret of spiritual assimilation. Reading can be a solitary act, but when the heart opens, it becomes an encounter with God, with truth, with what is yet to be born inside you. Reading only truly touches the soul when it descends from the mind into the spirit, and that happens when it turns into prayer. That's what happened in Nehemiah 8. The people heard the reading of the law and wept, not because it was a new text, but because, in that moment, each word found room inside them. And the reaction wasn't intellectual, it was spiritual. They understood. And when you understand with the soul, the body responds. Eyes water, the chest tightens, the conscience awakens. This is what happens when you finish a page and instead of going straight to the next, you close the book and pray. Not a rehearsed prayer, but a prayer born from confrontation, from discomfort, from the mirror that sentence has placed in front of you. Lord, what does this reveal about me? What do you want to transform in me through this? What do I need to surrender, change, acknowledge? When these questions turn into prayer, the content is no longer external. It becomes flesh. It becomes seed, and only then does it bear fruit. Read, reflect, pray. 3 movements in the same process, inner conversion. Because true spiritual knowledge is not what you accumulate to teach, it's what you digest to live. What turns into repentance, into a new choice, into a living awareness. What bends into knees, what tears pride apart, what silences haste and makes room for God to do what only He can do, transform.
4. Choose books that answer what your soul is asking. There are moments when what's missing isn't the amount of reading, it's direction. Because it's no use being surrounded by books if none of them speaks to your pain. There's a difference between reading out of habit and reading out of inner necessity. The first keeps you occupied. The second heals. Each season of the soul carries different questions. Sometimes it's exhaustion that's screaming. Other times it's doubt, guilt, fear, or a loss of meaning. That's why choosing what to read cannot be based on what's trending, what everyone else is reading, or what seems impressive. The most transformative reading is always the one that answers the question you haven't even had the courage to write down. And for that, you must stop. Listen to yourself. honestly ask, what is alive inside me right now? What pain still throbs? What confusion still lingers? What kind of presence do I need? The answer to these questions will lead you to the right book, because books are like silent doctors. Not all are meant for the same wound. One book may be a hug, another a knife that separates lies from truth, another a mirror you've been avoiding. But the right book, at the right time, is always more than information. It's divine intervention. Like someone in the process of healing, you must choose the right treatment. And often, that begins with being honest enough to admit, I don't need more content, I need care. So before you buy your next book, ask yourself, does this attract me because it's beautiful, or because it answers a pain I can no longer ignore? That answer is already halfway to the right book. And the right book, when received with the right heart, can reorganize your inner world.
5. 7 days, 1 focus. How to practice a transformative reading each week. Inner transformation doesn't happen by accident. It requires rhythm. And more than that, it requires repetition with intention. Because the soul doesn't change in a hurry, it changes with perseverance. That's why, instead of trying to finish an entire book in a single weekend, perhaps the answer is to slow down, to choose a single chapter per day, to let each page have time to breathe inside you. Think of your week as fertile ground. 7 days, 1 book, 1 focus. Each morning or evening, a short passage, a present reading, a sincere question. What does this touch in me? Then a practical decision, even a small one, that translates that insight into an action, an attitude, a realignment. And at the end of each reading, a prayer. Short, honest. Something like, Lord, turn this word into flesh within me. Let it not remain only in memory. Let it become a path. Some books lend themselves well to this kind of journey. Proverbs, The Cross and the Switchblade, In His Steps, The Prayer of a Thirsty Soul. But more important than the book is the heart with which you read. Because with the right heart, even a single paragraph is enough to start an inner revolution. When you repeat this practice for 7 days, 1 chapter, 1 action, 1 prayer, something within you begins to reorganize. A new pattern forms, spiritual, emotional, even neurological. And little by little, you realize you're not just reading a book, you're being read, you're being shaped, and most importantly, you're allowing something to end within you. An old cycle, an old lie, an old pattern so that something new can begin.
Some people say that books change lives. But the deeper truth is that books, on their own, do not have that power. What truly transforms is what you decide to do with what you've read. It's what you allow each word to awaken, confront, heal, or reveal within you. And it is in that sacred space between reading and living that true change takes place. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "You can never know the impact of a book that came into your hands at the right moment. And perhaps, right now, in this very moment, you are holding one of those books. One that did not arrive by chance. One that carries not just pages, but portals. Portals into yourself, closer to God. To the truth that already dwells within you, yet still needs to be named." That's why the invitation is not to read more. It's to read with more presence, with more surrender, with more hunger. Because wisdom is not something you collect. Wisdom is something you cultivate. and the fertile soil is within you. You only need to stop, bow down, and dive in with intention. You have access to rivers of wisdom, words that wait for silence, meanings that only reveal themselves to those who dare not only to understand, but to be touched. And now the question is not, what will you read next? But rather, are you willing to let the next book read you back?